Well, hello, my friends, and happy Sunday, and welcome to this week's episode of My Journey with Jesus. My name is Dave Little, and I am so pleased and so blessed that you all have tuned in to this week's devotional video as we study the Word of God together and journey imperfectly with Him. So, indeed, it is great to be back on the channel this week. Today we are going to pick up in our discussion of the first book of Peter, or the book of First Peter. The past couple weeks we've gone in some different directions. So let's do a brief recap of where we left off in chapter 1 of First Peter a few weeks ago. Back in episode 243, we talked about the core message of the letter of First Peter, and that is the message of hope. Jesus is risen. Jesus promises us an eternal inheritance of glory. Our eternal future is secure with Him. And because our eternal future with Him is secured, we can walk with Him daily, resting in this hope no matter what trials we face. As we read in chapter 1, verses 3 through 5, praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In His great mercy, He has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. So yeah, isn't that awesome? Our inheritance lies before us. Our inheritance is secured and shielded by God's power, and our inheritance can never perish, spoil, or fade. And like we talked about a few weeks back, it is the ultimate retirement. We have everything to look forward to ahead of us. And so picking up from there, today we will move forward in chapter 1 of First Peter. And actually, as we move forward in the letter, we're going to refocus from our eternal future to life in the present moment. Given that our eternal future in Him is secure and our inheritance awaits us and it is incorruptible, how does that impact us today? And so from that perspective, let's read on. In all of this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in various kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold which perishes, even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you have not seen Him, you love Him. And even though you do not see Him now, you believe in Him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. For you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. So here Peter is turning our attention to the present moment and teaching us that our hope in God's salvation provides us with two magnificent outcomes and one natural response. Peter actually puts the response first. Looking there at verse 6, in all of this, the hope and the inheritance that Peter has just been writing about, in all of this we greatly rejoice. There's plenty for us to rejoice about that we've already talked about, our eternal inheritance and the future hope that it provides. But we don't have to wait until we get to heaven to experience the blessings that Jesus promises. Our earthly joy is untarnished in the moment as a result of the two outcomes that Peter calls out here. And those two outcomes that we will discuss today are overwhelming joy and overcoming strength. In this section of verses, Peter emphasizes the joy twice. And so in order to celebrate that, I invited a couple of famous joys to stop by. It's great to be joined here today on the channel by a couple of well-known gospel singers, Joy Gardner on the left and Tiff Joy on the right. So we are just overwhelming with joy today on the channel. And just as we are overwhelmed with Joy Gardner and Grace Joy, Peter gives us a double dose of joy. First, in verse 6, when Peter relates our joy back to the hope we have in our eternal inheritance with God. In all this you greatly rejoice. Peter comes back to this in verse 8. Verse 8 gives us a dose of joy in the here and now, in the present moment. We love Jesus. We believe in Jesus, and as we walk on earth for all of our days, we are filled with a joy that is inexpressible and glorious. We are spiritual billionaires. We have all the spiritual assurance we will need to carry us through eternity. And because we have that wealth of spiritual riches, we can find joy in Jesus here on earth each and every day. And that joy is glorious and inexpressible. The other outcome of our eternal hope is overcoming strength. This was definitely a need of Peter's original letter, those who read his original letter. And as we may recall, this letter was originally written to churches around the region of Asia Minor. Many of these folks had been forced out of Rome in exile as the Emperor Nero began the official state-sanctioned persecution of the church. And so as these scattered believers read these words of encouragement written by Peter, these words were so encouraging. Even now, for a little while, you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. Trials are upon you, trials that will cause you to suffer grief. The result of these trials will be the strengthening of your faith. Your faith will be proven and purified, just the way that gold is purified and refined by going through fire. And even more importantly, your faith will be rewarded when you meet Jesus face to face. So your faith will be proven and purified. Your faith will be rewarded when you meet Jesus. These are all words of encouragement from Peter. And as I was reflecting on those words this week, I thought back to the events that took place just recently in my own family. If you had the chance to catch the broadcast last week, you heard the news that my family and I went through some pretty awful stuff a couple weeks ago when my son was hit by a car while we were vacationing together in Colorado. Of course, that type of trial doesn't measure up to the intensity of the persecution that was faced by the churches in Peter's audience, or the persecution that churches around the world still face today. But in terms of our daily lives, me and my family and my children living here in the comforts of 21st century America, what we went through a couple of weeks ago was a serious situation. And the images are still burned in my memory. Watching the ambulance dash away from the scene of the accident just as we arrived. sitting and waiting in the lobby of the emergency room while the doctors were evaluating his injuries. Sharon and I sitting in the emergency room and praying and talking to nurses and paramedics and waiting on the news about Paul and his injuries. Then we finally got back into the emergency room itself, and the image of seeing Paul, my son, lying on the bed, suffering from the pain of fractures in 4 different places and a concussion and a head full of staples. We spent the next 36 hours agonizing over whether Paul would need to undergo surgery to repair his collarbone. And then the next couple of days going through the hassle of getting replacement glasses for this young man, Paul, who's pretty much legally blind without them. And on top of all that, we had the added inconveniences of the rental car getting damaged while we were parked at the hospital, and the inconvenience of me ending up in urgent care with an uncontrollable nosebleed. So yeah, lots of trying experiences we went through, and lots of anxiety. What if our son had died from his injuries? What if he'd been paralyzed or permanently disabled? Over the course of those few days, we faced a lot of fears, but my wife and I together were able to lean on our faith in Jesus and lean on the knowledge that the trials we face will strengthen us. All of these situations in our lives certainly qualified as trials, even if we weren't being directly persecuted for our beliefs. And Sharon and I were blessed to be able to turn our eyes upon Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, for the strength to put our faith in him in all of the circumstances that we were facing. And this was a real life application of the idea that Jesus is giving us the strength to overcome the trials that we face in our daily life on earth through our faith in him. That was an example of overcoming strength in our lives, and yet we have more to come. We're gonna see more about this strength in the next few verses, in the next few paragraphs of this letter. Check out what Peter writes in verse 13. This is just kind of a teaser for what we will get into next week. Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. One of the blessings of our faith is that we are blessed with minds that are alert and fully sober. When our faith is refined, when our faith is strengthened, we are ready for anything. The trials that we face empower us to a deeper commitment to walking with him. Our trust in him gives us the strength to endure trials, to overcome temptation, to strive for deeper holiness, and to develop a stronger desire to emulate the character of Jesus. And that's where we will go next week when we do a deeper dive and continue on in the book of 1 Peter. And that is where we will wrap things up for today. So thank you all. Thank you all for tuning in this week. Thanks for listening. And again, I'm so thankful to those who have reached out to us and encouraged us through what we've been through the last couple weeks. In fact, just last night on my live YouTube broadcast, one of the guys that was alongside me in Denver popped on to the channel and asked how things were going, and I was able to again share with him and express my appreciation to him for his support. All of the support of all of the listeners is just such a blessing. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those in the comments section down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like for the purposes of promoting this video and other videos like it in the YouTube search algorithms of other viewers. If you want to hear more from the channel, you can hit the subscribe key down below and you'll get notified whenever new content is posted. And with that, we will close. The good Lord willing, we will be back on the channel next week. And until then, God bless you all and go in peace.